Greetings, auras, witches, wizards, muggles, and thank you for tuning in to this new installment of Hogwarts Castle, where today we shall be wandering the chambers and exploring the vast open expanse of Nurmengard Castle. Nurmengard Castle was a castle that was utilised by Dark Wizard and proprietor of many dark and malevolent spells, Grindelwald. Grindelwald being the sort of prelude Dark Wizard to Voldemort, with Voldemort arriving a generation later to, in many wizards' eyes, steal his crown as the most powerful and malevolent Dark Wizard of all time. Grindelwald grew up with Dumbledore and Grindelwald eventually fostering a romantic relationship. Both boys learnt a lot from one another and contribute both of their immensely powerful magical skill to their time spent together. Dumbledore was able to learn a lot from Grindelwald, and Grindelwald in turn from Dumbledore. Both could benefit off one another extremely well, reaching new heights with regards to innate magical ability. In a way, both boys, who had been magical prodigies, growing up unrivaled throughout their entire school year until Grindelwald was expelled at 16 from Durmstrang Institute for performing malicious dark spells, were challenged by another for the very first time. Of course, Dumbledore would later be challenged by Tom Riddle, but for the first time in a long time, Dumbledore was challenged by another wizard for the very first time. A very unique relationship fostered between them. However, they eventually parted ways after a 3-year duel containing Dumbledore's brother, Aberforth, and the two aforementioned wizards, which resulted in the death of Dumbledore's sister, Ariana, who had been struggling to manipulate her magical ability from a very young age. But today, we have to turn our attention to Grindelwald and Tom Marvolo Riddle, Voldemort, two of the most powerful wizards of all time, widely considered to be the second and third only to Dumbledore, with Voldemort widely regarded as a shade more skillful than Grindelwald. However, this is contested by some, who claim Grindelwald is the ultimate force of darkness and dark malevolent energy in the wizarding world, and truly was superior to Dumbledore and Voldemort. However, let us venture to the Deathly Hallows. In both the Deathly Hallows book and film, we see Dumbledore visiting Nurmengard Castle, where Grindelwald has been rotting for over 5 decades, 53 years to be exact. Grindelwald went in as a young, ambitious man after being defeated in the legendary duel, which many claim was the greatest wizarding duel of all time, by Albus Dumbledore, with Albus claiming ownership and rightful leadership of the Elder Wand, being able to command it and perform spells that were previously magically impossible. It was hailed as one of the greatest magical duels, if not the greatest, in all of histories by Amphius Doge. Amphius Doge being one of Dumbledore's friends and close allies who would later outlive him. However, why did Voldemort visit Grindelwald? Was it purely just to gain information on the whereabouts of the Elder Wand? Why did this malevolent Dark Wizard pay attention to this now fossil, this has-been of a Dark Wizard in Grindelwald? Today, we are going to be answering this very question. Voldemort, of course, was on his hunt for the Elder Wand. The Elder Wand was created by death, fashioned out of an elm tree, and created as the most powerful wand in existence, that was inquired and desired by one of the Peverell brothers. The Peverell brothers, the 3 of them, Ignatius, Cadmius, and Antioch, each took one of the Hallows, with each one of the Hallows being the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Cloak of Invisibility. The cloak would obviously go down to Harry Potter, the Elder Wand would eventually pass to Grindelwald, then Dumbledore, then Draco Malfoy, then Harry Potter. And the Resurrection Stone would be cracked and destroyed and lost in the Forbidden Forest. Voldemort was on a search for the Elder Wand, as he believed this would be the only way to truly defeat Harry Potter and rid any chance of him being surpassed at all in the wizarding world. Voldemort wanted to expand his army and his arsenal across the entirety of the wizarding world, becoming the wizarding world's unquestionable superior and overlord, becoming a magical lord and overlord, achieving levels of power that previously were thought impossible. And he knew it too, with Voldemort already believing that he was the greatest sorcerer of all time. However, this was challenged by both Grindelwald and Dumbledore, who believed, in some circles, that each one was superior to Voldemort. Voldemort visited Grindelwald primarily to learn about the whereabouts of the Elder Wand. Voldemort wanted the Elder Wand as much as he wanted the death of Harry Potter, as after the poor stick of Lucius Malfoy's, the stick that Dumbledore stated in limbo was no match for Harry's due to the special bond that was between them was absolutely destroyed and annihilated during the Battle of the Seven Potters, Voldemort knew he would have to try extra hard in order to defeat Harry. So he embarked on the search for the most powerful wand in history, allowing him to perform feats of magic that were previously thought impossible. In the end, Voldemort eventually found this, but during the time, he found Grindelwald, travelling to it after he had recently learned that Grindelwald bore the Elder Wand until 1945. Dumbledore knew that Grindelwald had lost the Elder Wand, but in my opinion, he did not understand where he lost it to, and personally needed his input in his journey. So Voldemort went to Nurmengard, travelling using apparition and flight towards the ruined castle, which had been Grindelwald's home and prison for the last 53 years. The primary reason why he didn't go to Azkaban was due to the fact that Nurmengard, which it didn't allow their prisoners' wands, kept him there, enticing him and allowing him to remain there, with him showing remorse and not wanting to conquer anymore. When Voldemort showed up, he immediately insinuated that he was Grindelwald's superior, not treating the Dark Wizard with any sign of respect, only getting out of him what he needed, which was primarily information. He only needed Grindelwald to comply with him, and then the old wizard would meet his end, as he eventually did, as Grindelwald ended up frustrating Voldemort so much, he used Avada Kedavra on the old sorcerer. Grindelwald attempted to deceive Voldemort, but personally, in my opinion, didn't only come here to seek the Elder Wand. He knew of Grindelwald's infamy and his legendary dark magical prowess that was rivaled only by his own. Tom Riddle was a very arrogant man, always proclaiming himself as the best, simply the best, the most powerful. Not even Dumbledore could withstand it, despite the fact that many believed, the majority of the wizarding world, believed that Voldemort was inferior to Dumbledore, but superior to Grindelwald. Although, like I said, aforementionedly, this is challenged by some. Voldemort saw Grindelwald as nothing. However, he thought that if he was the one to murder this incredibly powerful dark wizard, it would mean that he truly was the most powerful, and that his infamy would reach new heights, achieving levels of famousness that was recently thought to be impossible, even above Grindelwald and perhaps even, if given time, Dumbledore. Dumbledore was exceptionally famous, and was even more famous due to the fact that he defeated Grindelwald, one of the darkest and most malicious wizards in all of history, defeating him in their famous 1945 duel. Voldemort thought that if he was the one to murder Grindelwald, and someone eventually found this out, then he would be proclaimed the unquestionable greatest dark sorcerer in the world, and achieved new levels of fear factor that would be induced upon the majority of the wizarding public, allowing Voldemort to essentially become a god among wizards. Well, my Hogwarts students, what did you think of today's lecture? Be sure to tune in next week for our next installment. We are recently upgrading and exploring the Forbidden section. During the Battle of Hogwarts, a lot of our texts and manuscripts were taken by Voldemort's followers and the remnants of his Death Eaters, and we have only recently started to recover them. So if you wish to delve into more Harry Potter lore next week, then please return. Share this with your friends. Use Avada Kedavra on the like button to turn it grey, and use Expecto Patronum on the subscribe button to blind it into greyness. Hit the subscribe button and share this with your friends. Farewell. I bid you farewell, my magical comrades, and remember, you're a wizard, Harry!